Every time he wanted to go out of his house, he would be blocked by a wall of air. It wasn't until he tried countless times that he realized he was just a remnant soul. The familiar house was no longer his home alone. New tenants came and went. Although they couldn't see him, they could feel his traces. He had thought that he would be trapped forever in an unnoticed corner. Until this day, a boy of the same age moved into the house. Like the other tenants, only the pet could be the first to notice the girl. But then the boy accidentally triggered a hidden compartment in the closet while taking off his shoes. Out of curiosity, he opened a red album. The first page was marked with the girl's name. The yellowed photo looked very old-fashioned. Unconsciously, he turned to the page where the girl looked grown up. But there were no more photos at the back of the album. Just as he was turning back to the previous page, the album suddenly closed. Of course, the boy didn't know that it was Xiaoyu playing tricks. He just thought that there was something strange about the album. During the flipping, a ring quietly fell to the ground. The next day, the boy got up to go to school. The pain in his foot made him realize the ring was there. The gem on the ring seemed to have magic power. It attracted him to put on his hand. The boy couldn't believe it. He thought it was an illusion. He put on the ring again. This strange experience made him gasp in surprise. But when he put the ring back on his finger, the girl appeared again. The boy picked up the album. He confirmed that the girl in the photo was Xiaoyu. At this time, the ring was slowly floating in the air. He was sure that the other party had no malicious intent. He tried to put on again. Xiaoyu introduced herself. Her sincere eyes made the boy believe that he wasn't a bad person. But a girl that others couldn't see suddenly became a roommate. This made Alan take a long time to fully digest it. Xiaoyu began to recall. That day, he visited the museum and happened to see a beautiful ring. Out of curiosity, he picked it up and carefully observed it. At that moment, the administrator came to inspect. He subconsciously hid the ring in his hand. He lied that he got lost and accidentally went to the wrong exhibition hall. After leaving the museum, he realized that the ring was still in his hand. Thinking about how to return it, a car out of control hit him directly. He didn't know what was going on. He only remembered that from then on, he seemed to be trapped in his house, unable to go out or be seen by anyone. Only when concentrating could he touch some objects. At this time, Alan's mother urged him to go to school. He had to take off the ring. He thought about coming back to deal with the situation of living with the century-old ghost. At the new school, Alan was quickly approached by an Asian girl. He bluntly said that Alan might be haunted by an evil spirit. Alan thought it was just a chat. After adding contact information, he hurriedly went home. He hesitated for a while, but put on the ring again. But this time, Xiaoyu didn't appear. Just as he was about to relax, Xiaoyu quietly appeared in the closet. Alan had to admit that. He was really haunted by a ghost, but he was just an ordinary boy who wanted to live an ordinary life. So he and Xiaoyu discussed if they could pretend not to have met each other and let everything go back to the time when the ring was discovered. Xiaoyu agreed on the surface, but in Alan's description, she was being very quiet. But after Alan's description, Xiaoyu nodded in agreement. However, Alan couldn't accept that a girl from 100 years ago could suddenly become a roommate in his home. Xiaoyu was extremely excited because he had also loved music in his life and even entered a music college. And Alan was studying at that school. But because his father's death, Alan rarely touched musical instruments. However, at lunchtime, the naughty Xiaoyu picked up the salt shaker behind his mother. Alan was extremely frustrated. He had to call out Xiaoyu again and make a pact with her. She could wear the ring, but couldn't disturb his mother. She couldn't accept having a 100-year-old ghost in the house. Xiaoyu nodded in agreement, but in Alan's description, she was being very quiet. But after Alan's description, Xiaoyu appeared quietly in the closet. Alan had to admit that. He was really haunted by a ghost, but he was just an ordinary boy who wanted to live an ordinary life. So he and Xiaoyu discussed if they could pretend not to have met each other and let everything go back to the time when the ring was discovered. Xiaoyu agreed on the surface, but in Alan's description, she was being very quiet. But after Alan's description, Xiaoyu appeared quietly in the closet. He discovered an unacceptable truth. He had thought he was just trapped for 20 years. He didn't realize that a century had passed outside. He was lamenting about how many new things he had missed. By chance, his hand passed through the window. Little Rain repeatedly confirmed that. The barrier blocking him really disappeared. She breathed in the fresh air again. Little Rain was excited like a child. She shouted and asked Alan to take her to more places to visit. Alan was quite helpless, but he still smiled and agreed to introduce his new roommate to the new world. The people's outfits and the novel technologies along the way all shocked Little Rain. Through the internet, he even learned that the world had undergone earth-shattering changes over the past 100 years. At night, Little Rain couldn't help but sigh by the window. She had once dreamed of becoming a pilot, but now she was trapped here. She couldn't even take a flight once. Alan comforted him. If he were still alive, perhaps he would also become a great pilot, because women in the new era, no longer are they bound by gender. During the conversation, Aaron's hand seemed to sense the presence of Xiaoyu. Just as the atmosphere became increasingly intimate, Aaron hastily found an excuse, stating that he had to get up early the next day for school, hoping to end this awkward situation. However, Xiaoyu heard this and begged to go to school with him. After all, that was the place where he had lived before. He also wanted to know the changes there. Aaron was extremely helpless. Coincidentally, it was Halloween. The other students all dressed up as ghosts. Only he actually brought a ghost to school. But halfway there, Chini suddenly stopped him. Although he couldn't see Xiaoyu, he always felt there seemed to be something existing around Aaron. Aaron stepped aside to block Xiaoyu. Just as he was about to take off the ring, he was caught by his aunt. He quickly recognized that this ring was extraordinary. After returning home, surely he found out its origin on an ancient book. It was a treasure from an Egyptian pharaoh, but there was no magic on it. Instead, there was a curse. The high priest, in order not to be separated from his lover, cast a curse on the person who received the ring. If the two rings were separated, they would immediately encounter disaster and become ghosts forever wandering in the human world. And the way to lift the curse was very simple. Just put the two rings together again. At this time, Aaron passed by the piano room and saw Xiaoyu touching the piano keys sadly. He understood that this girl had been alone for too long. Now, perhaps the only thing that could comfort her was music. Aaron sat beside Xiaoyu and began to play the guitar he hadn't touched for a long time. The two tones intertwined and entwined, producing a touching melody. Xiaoyu was still full of enthusiasm and exclaimed that this day was the best day in the past 100 years. Aaron also let go of himself, deciding to make this night more meaningful. He took Xiaoyu to the brightly lit New York. They walked through the alley and entered a joyful dance party. Here was filled with laughter and joy. Xiaoyu couldn't help being intoxicated for some reason. At this moment, Xiaoyu could be touched by a human being. The two were at first confused and then excitedly hugged each other. This meant that Xiaoyu could enjoy this dance party like a living person. Under the melodious jazz music, they changed into retro dresses and together came to the stage in a hurry to complete the first awkward dance in 100 years. As the emotions deepened, the two got closer and closer. In the chaotic lights, they spent a romantic night. The next morning, Chini hurriedly called Aaron to the store. He told Aaron about the curse of the ring, and he had already found out about another ring, which was now in a museum in New York. But there was a sad news. Tomorrow at the auction, this ring would be auctioned anonymously. This might be the last chance to return the ring. Aaron felt a mixture of emotions in his heart. He had already developed feelings for Xiaoyu, but he didn't want Xiaoyu to remain alone and trapped here forever. So he finally decided not to tell her the truth. However, Xiaoyu saw the message sent by her aunt on her phone. Aaron hesitated for a moment. He finally told Xiaoyu everything about the ring. However, he learned that he could have been set free, but Aaron deliberately kept it a secret. Xiaoyu felt deceived. Looking at the hysterical little rain, Aaron realized how ignorant he was. He hadn't considered anything for the little rain. He was merely satisfying his own thoughts. Aaron didn't know what to do. He could only take off the ring, let both parties calm down first. The other side, Chini, didn't receive Aaron's reply. He went alone to the piano room, but only saw himself dancing on the moving keys. He quietly walked over to the side, put on the ring that Aaron had left behind, not being surprised by the sudden appearance of the little rain, but explaining to him like a friend. Aaron was also lonely. The appearance of the little rain filled his loneliness. This made him make a wrong choice. At this time, Aaron was also enlightened by his mother. That life always needs to continue. One shouldn't always be stuck in the past. Aaron decided to do something to make up for the mistake he had made. He called the museum, lying that he had taken the ring. Thus, he obtained important information. The ring was still in the museum. It will be shipped tomorrow. He hurriedly ran back to school. He sincerely apologized to the little rain. The little rain also accepted his sincerity. Hey, you two, you guys need a ride. With the help of their aunt, they drove to New York, carrying the ghostly figure of Xiaoyu. All the security measures were just for show. Soon they found another ring. This also meant it was time to part ways. Their eyes couldn't help but well up with tears. After a heartfelt farewell, Aaron took off the ring, watching Xiaoyu slowly disappear. His tears couldn't help but flow uncontrollably. As the white light flashed, Xiaoyu returned to the past. He put the ring back to its original place before the guard arrived. When he walked out of the museum, that car also passed by him. Everything before seemed like a dream to him. Only Aaron, who had returned home, was still recalling the wonderful story between the two of them. He opened the photo album again, but he saw that the blank space was already filled with new photos.